Hi there. Welcome to the Schwowin's Nest. My name is Sandra, and I'm so glad you stopped by today. My best friend Sonja over at Domestic Diva DIY has inspired me to create some lemon decor for you. She just put out a $20 store DIY video that's chock full of lemon decor, bee decor. You've got to go check it out. The link will be down in my description box. And if you could do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. She's really working hard at getting her channel to grow, so let's help her out. Let's get crafting. I'm going to start off by spray painting this old coffee can that I keep. These are awesome to keep if you need different planters. I'm going to give it a good coat of flat black Rust-Oleum 2 times paint and primer in one. Now I've got a stick from my yard. I actually kept this from a tree we cut down last year, so it's really hard and dried out. But I am just going to trim off this little branch because I don't need it. This is going to be my lemon tree, so I'm taking some acrylic paint, and this is just from Apple Barrel. It's just regular yellow, what it's called. And I'm going to add some of the talc that I use to make my DIY chalk paint. I'm going to just add a whole bunch in. You can see how watery this paint is. It doesn't cover really well, but once you add the talc, now I use Johnson & Johnson because that's what I have on hand. I cannot purchase that anymore. So once I run out of this, I probably will be looking at some other options. I like to set the paint aside so it has a chance to really thicken up. The baby powder or the talc really absorbs some of the moisture, so it gets super thick when you do it this way. And that's what I really love about using talc just with acrylic paint. I don't have lemons that are small enough, so I'm going to be using these limes. I grabbed these, I think, a couple of years ago at the thrift store, and I think there was about 20 of them in a bag. They're styrofoam, but they're coated with something really hard, and they've got a beautiful texture just like limes and lemons. So I'm going to give these 2 coats of this yellow chalk paint. With my cordless drill, I'm going to use a drill bit that is the same width as these stems. These are ficus branches, but I'm going to use them for my lemon tree because they're very similar to lemon leaves. What I'm going to do with the drill is just drill random holes all the way up and down the stick on either side, just kind of staggering the holes, because I'm going to be able to then take those stems and stick them into the holes, making it look really realistic. When I get to applying these, I am going to add some hot glue into it so it stays nice and firm. As I said earlier, using some hot glue, I'll just put a little blob right on top of the hole and then insert the branch. Now, one thing I'm going to make sure to do with these branches is not to put them all in the same direction. I'm going to try and mimic the inspiration that I had from Kirkland's, and this is it. It's a beautiful lemon tree. It's a little different than how mine turned out, but I still like mine too. I do love this one as well, but mine, of course, is way cheaper. It probably only cost me about $5 to make this tree. I just continued to add the branches until I got the look I wanted. Now for the lemons. Don't they look amazing? I'm so excited that this color turned out so good. And with the texture of the lemons, it's amazing. I'm just taking some extra stems that I had from different florals and pushing those right into the spot where I had the skewer for when I painted the lemons. And this is going to give me the ability to just poke them right into the stem of the branch as well in a drilled hole, the same as the other branches. Before I put them onto the tree, I'm going to add a couple of leaves here and there. Some of the lemons will get 2 leaves. A couple of them will just get 1. And I'm just using hot glue to glue them right to the bottom of the lemon. Here's my tree branches looking super full. I like the fullness of this compared to the original design. And so now I'm just going to drill in some more holes and add my lemons. Now that the lemon tree itself is all finished, I got to figure out how I'm going to get that thing to stand up in my can. So I did have this piece of styrofoam, and I'm just using my craft knife to cut out a circle that's about the same size as the branch. I am lacking in floral foam or styrofoam because I'm not able to get to the dollar store to get it, that part of the store is still off limits for me. So I am going to be using what I have here, this green stuff. It's a knee pad, and it's basically the same as a pool noodle. That's going to work for me for now until I can get to the stores and get some real pool noodles, and then I can use that. But you can see here that it's going to work perfectly. I'm going to glue that styrofoam down to the bottom of the can and then glue the branch in. To add some weight, I went to my stash and just threw in some rocks and some pebbles, whatever I happen to have laying around. Here you can see I've already started pushing in some of that green styrofoam, and it really worked well to just wedge everything in place. To finish off, I decided to add what moss I have left. This is sort of a mix of reindeer moss and Spanish moss. I'm just going to use some hot glue and then press it into place. I liked the black of the coffee can, but I just thought it was missing a little something. So I just took my dry brush and did some strokes all the way around it. I think that just gave it more of a weathered and rustic look, and that's something that I like. You could definitely leave it black if you prefer it that way. I just like how it turned out this way. This second project is inspired by this tin mason jar plaque that I picked up at the Dollar Tree a while ago, I think earlier in the spring. I went to my computer and I just printed off a free printable of lemons. I had to piece them together, but I did put them on some cardstock just with a glue stick. That fits nicely in there, so I'm just going to take my hot glue and glue it right down into place. I created this simple sign using my Cricut Design Space app, and I printed it out just on regular paper. I'm going to glue it onto a piece of black cardstock, leaving a little bit of a black frame all the way around the edge. I'm going to leave the links for both of these printables down in my description box. I'm just going to use my glue stick to apply the sign to the mason jar, and I'm only doing it in the four corners because I like to repurpose things. So I might be using this mason jar for a different project, and I want to be able to remove that sign really easily. I'm going to distress it a little bit with some black paint. I'm just using a softer brush this time, and I'm just going to kind of pull in from the outside edges and give it a little bit of a rustic look. Then I'll take the brush with whatever paint is left over and just drag it across the yellow lemonade sign. I'm going to glue on some of this black and white baker's twine that I picked up at Michael's just before Christmas. And I'm just going to go around the top part of the mason jar to give it a little bit more of an embellishment. And when I change directions, I'm going to just put a little bead of hot glue on the back to hold it in place. Using the same twine, I'm going to go a couple of times around the inside of the frame. You can see there that my printable was cut just a little bit shy, so there's a little bit of a gap. So I just want to cover that up, and that will also just tie in the mason jar to the frame itself. I put the hot glue every 3 or 4 inches just to make sure that the twine stayed in place. Once I got to the corner, I put a bead of hot glue there and then used my silicone face mask applicator from the Dollar Tree to push it right into the corner. And it turned out really great. I didn't burn my fingers, which is a bonus, but it also just gave it a nice clean corner. Okay, so I forgot to turn my camera on for some of this, but what I did was glue two tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree underneath the mason jar so it would be raised up a little bit. I like having things a little bit dimensional, and the other reason is I'm going to be adding some florals to the top of the jar, and I wanted to be able to tuck them in. I've got a half a lemon from the Dollar Tree. Their lemons are on the larger side. So I'm taking my craft knife and just cutting it down a little bit. I'm just going to use that bottom section. And I did attempt to paint the yellow inside of what a lemon would look like, but I didn't like how it was turning out. So I ended up just hot gluing it down to the bottom of the mason jar. I also grabbed a couple of leftover ficus leaves. I cut them down just a little wee bit and then glued them underneath the lemon so they would stick out a little bit towards the frame. I'm going to add in these delicate white florals. They have a brown stem on them, but I'm just going to use some hot glue and just place them kind of sporadically. I'm not going to do a whole bunch of them. I just want a few of them sticking out. They kind of match the blossoms from the lemon paper underneath. This next project is a special order from a customer. She wanted a ladder that looks like this. This is the inspiration piece. So I found these pieces of chunky wood that I had in my garage. But if you don't have chunky wood, you could take 4 or 5 painter sticks, glue them with some wood glue, and then that will give you a beautiful chunky piece of wood to work with. I'm going to cut an angle at the bottom of each of the pieces of wood just so it can lean really nicely against the wall. I'm just marking it with a pencil and then I'm going to use one of my little tiny saws to cut it out. These pieces of wood are almost a foot long, so I'm going to just divide them into threes and I'm going to mark a 3-inch, 6-inch, and 9-inch, and that's where my rungs will be placed. I've got these 1/2-inch wood dowels that are about 10 inches in length, and I'm going to just use those as my rungs. The ladder inspiration is fairly wide, and that's why I'm going to not bother cutting these down. I think they're going to be perfect. What I did do is take 3 of the painter sticks and put them underneath the dowel because I want the dowel to be glued in the center of the ladder and not off to one side. I'm just using hot glue. Hot glue is perfect for wood to wood, especially raw wood, and it's going to have a nice, secure, strong hold. If you're new to my channel, a big warm welcome to you. A big thank you to all of my subscribers for helping me reach a huge milestone. If you like what you see and you're not subscribed yet, I would love for you to do that. It really helps my channel grow and helps me earn a little bit of extra money so I can continue to inspire you with my home decor transformations. When I was all done, I noticed that there were a few little gaps. Hot glue is great for gluing, but it also leaves a little bit of a raised edge. So I'm just filling those edges in with my Star Bond medium density glue, and I'm going to then spray the accelerator on, and that is going to harden it like solid plastic, and it's not going to go anywhere. Especially since this is a project for a customer, I want to make sure it stays put. Now I'm going to stain it. I'm using a walnut gel stain by Americana, and I kept the original bottle. I had 2 of these bottles, and what I've done is put a little bit of water in the bottle that's empty, and then I can go ahead and just add a little bit of the stain and make a more watered down version. That is what I like to do just because it dries faster and it soaks into the wood so much better with the water added to it. I'm going to use a dry brush and my white DIY chalk paint to heavily distress the ladder. It turned out so stinking adorable that I think I might need to make one for myself, and I'll probably make a few more to sell for other customers. I think it looks absolutely adorable sitting here with a little lemon tea towel that's from the Dollar Tree. The last project I have for you today is using this Dollar Tree tea towel. I love these lemon ones. I don't do a lot of lemon decorating in my home, but I just think they're so bright and cheery. I just might have to include this. Anyhow, what I'm going to do is glue this with hot glue. I did already cut this in half, so I'm going to put the two right sides together. Make sure that the cut side is the same as the cut side and the hemmed sides are the same as the hemmed sides. You can see what I'm doing here. Then I'm going to go ahead and just use my hot glue gun and glue all three sides together, leaving one of them open. Now I'm going to turn it inside out. I did wait a couple of minutes for the glue to set up properly. And what I'm going to make sure to do is poke my finger very gently into the corner. I want these to have some nice sharp corners. I don't want it to be like a rounded chunky thing. So I'm just going to be very gentle as to not rip the glue open, but do my best to kind of get a good corner on all four sides. I'm using some pillow stuffing from an old pillow. This one I used on my front porch last year, but I think the lemon one has just kicked it out. I'm going to tear apart the foam because I want it to be really easy to work with and be able to push it into the corners and stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and push it in, and then I just use my hand and kind of push it and pull it and make it work so it's nice and smooth. I'm not going to make this a huge pillow, so I'm not going to stuff it a lot. I want it to be more of a flat pillow. So I'm just going to continue stuffing it until I have the thickness that I want. I'm going to glue this pillow shut. You don't have to glue it if you don't want to. You could go ahead and do a blind sewing stitch, but I just figured it's easier. I've got my hot glue gun out and hot, ready to go. So I'm just going to fold in both edges, the top and the bottom, and then I'm going to glue them together. I forgot to mention that this is also a Kirkland's inspired piece. I wanted to add a little bit of black to this because that's kind of the theme I got going on for this video. And I thought it just added the perfect touch to it. So I'm just going to cut a piece of the ribbon, tie it off, and then I'll add another piece of ribbon on the opposite end, making sort of a gift wrap package, if you could say. And I think this one turned out really cute too. It's going to look amazing on my front porch. If you're still here with me, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you like what you saw today, please give me a thumbs up. That tells YouTube you like my video and they promote it more, which in turn helps my channel grow too. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. You don't want to miss out on any of my future videos. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.